Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Unlocked. It's awesome to be here with you guys today. Tracy Wilson with you for about the next half an hour or so, and we're going to be talking about how do you actually get a live show off the ground? So many people kind of ask, or now that I've been doing this for a while, actually, and I've been talking about, doing a live show, and that this is the way that I think is a fantastic way of being able to connect your message, your information, your expertise, etc., with your product and or service. I've got a whole load of people that have been contacting me, asking me, how do I do it? How do I even get started? So I kind of wanted to start there with you guys today. I wanted to give you a bit of an insight into the process that I went through, the process that we take our students through, in terms of how do I actually get a idea or a concept of a show off the ground. Now, if you've been listening and watching for a little while, like I said, you know that I'm a huge advocate of doing your own show, because I think it is it has so many benefits to it. And a lot of them, I'm going to be honest, I didn't even realize were going to be huge benefits when I first started out. I just thought, okay, it's one of the ways that I'm going to start marketing in my business. It's one of the ways that I'm going to start sharing what I know, because I knew I wanted to do that, but didn't really know the impact that it would have on my level of confidence. So that's kind of one of the huge, let's say, added benefits of doing your own show, is that it really does help you with your confidence. It helps. There is nothing that I have ever done before that has given me the same level of confidence or personal self-development, even buying into really expensive programs that I've done in the past. Nothing has beaten just going out and starting my own show. And I'm hoping you guys are able to see me okay. I'm looking a little bit frozen on the screen, so you might get some crazy faces today, but you can laugh at me if you want to. So let's just kind of run with this. And again, that's one of the things that I want to say has been also a benefit of doing your own live show, is you kind of get to the point where you're really relaxed and you don't take yourself too seriously. In the beginning stages of creating your own show, you're wanting to make sure everything's right. You want to do everything just so. You want to say the right thing and all that sort of stuff. But again, as time goes on and you build your confidence and your level of competency, kind of all of that goes out the window, and you just, you just roll with the punches. So someone's telling me it's a little bit jittery. They can hear me, but I don't know, internet gods, they play nice sometimes they don't. So just bear with me. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me, and that is the main thing, because the stuff that I'm going to share with you today is actually going to get your backside off of your seat and get you to start or plant your backside on a seat, actually. Grab yourself a pen and paper, and it's going to help you to start formulating the concepts and the ideas that you might have for your own live show. So now that I've rabbited on about some of the benefits and some of the, I suppose, the personal things that I've found have been really beneficial for me as far as confidence, et cetera, and also that, strategic planning and just really thinking through what it is that I'm doing. There's a whole raft of huge benefits that you'll get from doing this. But there's a few things that I've learned over the time. And this is fundamental, what I'm going to be talking to you guys about today. It's actually the planning. And most people don't spend enough time in the initial phases of planning out what they're going to be talking about. Now, we teach this inside of the program that myself and Vicky Helm, who you guys may be familiar with, she has a show called The Coffee Break Show. Both her and I are coaches within a program that we've created called the Influence and Authority Method. And we spend a lot of time with our students in this phase because of the fact that it's really important. If you start your show and you kind of are ending, you start it the wrong way, it can take you down a path that maybe is a little bit hard to kind of backpedal and get out of. So you want to start your show with the end in mind and with the right intentions and the right level of I suppose, direction and focus. So what is it that you need to be able to do that right from the get-go? And like I do on Fridays, this is no different. I have got a little giveaway for you guys. So again, if you hang around to the end, I'm actually going to give you a work mat and a planner that's going to help you to take the concepts and the ideas out of your head and actually think through the things that you need to do to start coming up with the concepts, or bringing it to life, so that you too can start your own show. Because I want to see as many of you guys out there, particularly if you are listeners of the Unlock Show, creating your own show and your own anchor platform to give you the opportunity to share your expertise and share your knowledge with others. So what are some of the things that you need to consider? Like I said, planning phase, super, super important. Download the document that I'm going to give you at the end of the show called the Show Planner. The first thing that most people kind of go to is, what am I going to call my show? What should I name it? And that's actually the wrong place to start. The place that you want to start is in a space of like, what is my show going to be about? Who is the audience that I'm wanting to speak with? And more importantly, you want to think about the product and or service or the business that you are about to create. And what sort of things would people that would be interested in your product and or service, what sort of information might they be interested in? So for example, let's just say you had a beauty brand, you had a skincare brand. You might start thinking about, what types of questions do I get from my customers who are buying or going to buy my skincare range? And if you think about it from that aspect and that perspective, you can start working your way backwards. Like I said at the beginning, you're kind of starting with the end in mind. You want to think about, in my show, where is the most logical place for people to end up with me, working with me on a one-on-one basis? Maybe they'll be inside of some of your programs. Potentially they'll buy some of your physical products. So like in the example that I'm sharing with you today, if you were a skincare range and that was the product that you were selling and you were going to create a show around that, you might create your show that is giving, tips and resources and tools to help maybe it's women that you're appealing to as your avatar and your dream client within a certain age bracket. You might start talking about all the things that they would need to know about taking care of their skin, maybe when they're aging, or maybe some of the things that they could be doing, tips and tools and resources, etc., that can help them have beautiful skin, as well as your product. So you really want to make sure that you align that message, what you're talking about in your show, to your product and your service. And again, if you've been listening to this, to the show or to the podcast for some time, you will have heard me say that over and over and over again, because it is really important. Again, one of the things that I see a lot of people do is just create a show and just going to be talking about anything, when you really have no real intention or direction with where you're wanting to take people. So that would be the first thing that I would say you need to do. Don't start with, what am I going to call my show? You want to start with, what is my intention here? Where am I going to take people to? Start with the end in mind. And then, like I said, you're going to start working your way backwards. So with that in mind, once you've kind of got a sense of what's my product and what's my service, then you start working your way back from that. You start thinking about, well, what could my show be about? Now, the other thing that you might be thinking right now is, I want to start a show. I've got something that I want to do, but I don't even have a product and or a service just yet. So again, the same rules would apply. I would start with the end in mind, as in, if I could wake up every day and do something that I was really passionate about, and I could create my own business or my own product or my own service, what would that be? And I would actually start talking about that in my show before my product and or my service is even built. Now you might be asking, why the heck do you want to do that? Well, this type of platform and this type of medium in which you're going to be speaking on, your anchor platform, then becomes the place that you can start building an audience. So once you start building an audience of people that actually are interested in listening to you, they're interested in the subject matter that you are speaking about, they're potentially even interested in buying your product and or service, it's going to give you a huge advantage, because you're then going to be able to ask questions from your audience. You can start getting real-time feedback from them. You can start asking them questions so that you then, by the time when it comes time for you to build the product, you can actually implement and include some of the things that your audience has been asking about. So it's a really great way to get real-time feedback and almost use it some testing before and validation before you actually create the product that you've got in your head. So again, another great way of being able to validate before you go spending a lot of time, effort, and money on creating a product that potentially people might not want. So huge advantage to you if you do this. The other thing that you want to make sure that you do is you want to ask yourself, what am I passionate about? Because getting online and speaking about, it on a podcast or on a show, you want to make sure that you're able to bring a level of passion and commitment to what you're speaking about. Nothing worse than, listening to somebody talk about a product and or a service that they're not really that passionate about. And I can tell you now that if you try and fake it, it will be noticed. So if you've got a product and a service that you are trying to, you're spouting about and you're not passionate about it, it's going to show. So make sure that when you're creating your show, that it's something that you truly are passionate about, because that is going to be one of the things that will stand you apart from anybody else. If you can show up on a show and you're able to exude passion and exude enthusiasm about what it is that you do, then that's going to give you a level of magnetism. Whereas if you're not very passionate about it, then most people are not going to be magnetized to what it is that you're talking about. You're not passionate about it, they're most likely not going to be passionate about it either. The next thing you want to start asking yourself is then, what type of platforms, or who is my audience going to be? And I talk about this in kind of two senses. I talk about a macro and a micro audience. So what do I mean by that? So again, starting with the end in mind, my micro audience is those people that are actually my dream clients. They're the people that are most likely going to end up working with me at some point down the track. So I'm thinking through, like, who are those people that I would want to work with? And then when I'm looking at my macro audience, I'm then going a little bit wider than that. I'm like, so who now would be interested in listening to this particular topic or dialing in and listening to my show? Because out of that macro audience, that much bigger audience that you're drawing into your show, there will be an element or a subsection of those people, the audience, who are interested in buying your product and your service. So I'm always looking at it from a show perspective. I'm looking at it from two angles, both the micro and the macro perspective. And again, you can see clearly now that that's how I'm aligning the show and what you do with your product and or your service. So you're thinking about it from that perspective. Then you start getting into some of the nitty-gritty stuff. Then you can start thinking about, well, if I was doing a show, what type of platforms might I air that on? And again, you're starting to think about, where does your audience hang out? Are they mostly on Facebook? Would they, as your show, a how-to type show, or the type of information that people would be searching for on the likes of YouTube? Is it something that you would want to put on Instagram? Is it something that you would want to put on your, regularly on your website? Should it be turned into a podcast? Could you turn it into multiple other pieces of content? So on and so forth. So you're really thinking through that. And the method that we use really helps you to expand and give you what we call an omnipresence, meaning that you can have a presence in multiple different places all at the same time. For example, as I'm sharing this content with you today, it will be turned into a podcast. It's also streaming live on my YouTube channel and in multiple channels or groups and pages on Facebook. So you want to really be thinking about, how can you get the best bang for the amount of time that you are spending in being able to create your presence in multiple places, because that way you can increase your level of visibility. And I've spoken about visibility in previous shows, and you can go back and listen to some of those, and I give you some tips on how to make sure that you are visible in multiple different places. So these are just some of the things that you want to consider when you are creating your own show. Then, like I said, if we sort of start looking at the really practical things, we're then thinking about, all right, now let's start thinking about a name for my show. What could I call it? Do I position it with like Unlocked with Tracy Wilson? Is that how you want to position your show? And I would say, yeah, you do, because again, that is a big part of your own personal branding. So again, we have the Unlocked show with Tracy Wilson, the Coffee Break show with Vicky Helm, Integrative Conversations with Few Chand. So all of these different shows that we run, we have the host name in the title of the show. And what you want to think about with that too is that when you are going live, most people will become familiar with who you are, your name, who you are as the show host. So what will they do? They'll start going and Google searching your name. So the fact that you've got your name in the show title also helps you from a searchability point of view. The other thing that you also want to do, which I've spoken about before, is making sure that you add your show onto your authority platform, being your own personally branded website. So again, if you head on over to tracymwilson.com, you'll find that my show is on there, my podcast is on there. So somebody could go to my website and actually listen to all the episodes of my show there. So very strategically, we're thinking about where can I place my information and my show that is going to reach the audience that I'm intending to reach. So we're also thinking about all these things in that initial planning phase. Then you're also starting to think about, what sort of show am I going to be doing? Is it going to be a live or a syndicated, a pre-recorded type show? I'm a big advocate of the live. Why? Because people like to see authenticity. You cannot get any more authentic than just going live, unless of course you're going to try and put on a mask and a completely different persona when you're doing your show. But generally speaking, this type of format doesn't allow for fakeness. It just doesn't allow for that, because you have to bring your unique and your personality to the table. So I'm a big advocate for just doing it live. The other reason that I really like the live show aspect of things is it kind of takes away a lot of the excuses. So where you do, and I've done this in the past, and it just didn't fit for me, but everybody's different, and I'm just saying this is what works well for me, and this is what I teach people to do, and it usually helps people to shift through those barriers of, I'm too scared, I'm too frightened, I'm fearful, I've got to stay in my perfectionism zone. It moves them out of that really, really quickly, because when you're doing something live, you just don't have the opportunity to go back and go, hey, I didn't say that right. I'm going to rewind and re-record it again. And then a half an hour show is actually taking you 2 or 3 hours to produce. So another huge benefit of doing your show live is that it's massively time saving and gives you an opportunity to obviously turn it into loads of different content thereafter. So you're choosing, am I going to do a syndicated show? Am I going to go live in a live format like this? Or would I even just do audio? So I'm choosing my style and my type of anchor, what I call an anchor platform. And again, if you're doing just a podcast, well, it's just audio only. So you're just really thinking about what fits well with you. But I would also say, don't just, stay with that. If you're a little bit frightened of doing the live thing, like I mentioned right at the beginning of the show, you are going to get the biggest amount of transformation in the shortest possible time if you choose to step outside your comfort zone and start your own live show. You will get a massive, massive amount of personal development and transformation that you will not even know when you look back after about show 12. You probably won't even recognize yourself from show number 1. So like I mentioned, I harp on about this because I'm passionate about it, and I know it to be true because I've experienced it. And our students tell me the same thing, that I see the transformation that they have. The other things that you want to consider is, like, when are you going to air it? Like, how often are you going to do your show? Is it a once a week thing? Is it a once a month thing? Is it a twice a week thing? Is it an every day? Like, just pick a rhythm and a routine that fits again with your schedule, and something that you can commit to on a regular basis. So this is one of those things that you just need to commit to. Unlike doing ad hoc Facebook lives, this is not like that. You want to make sure that you show up, that you book in your diary, and it is rock solid, that it does not move. And I can tell you, by doing it in that way, what will happen, it will mean that you show up, you make a commitment to do it, whether it's once a week, twice a week, once a month, don't care what the frequency is, but it will happen. And the other thing you want to make sure you do is publish that you are going to be doing that. Make it known, state it, proclaim it to your audience that you are going to be there and you are going to be sharing great information and knowledge with them on a frequent basis, and make sure that you show up. Really, really important. So that part of this puzzle is an important piece, because you don't want to go kind of right down the path of planning it all out and then not following through with what you say you're going to do, because then it's, really it's become a waste of time. So make sure that you follow through, really, really important. And then the other thing you want to consider is, what's the format of my show? Will my show be a solo show? What's the time frame that I'm going to have? Is it a 15-minute show? Is it a 30-minute show? Is it a 60-minute show? And then also, is it solo, or will I have guests, or will I have multiple guests with me? Because that all is something that you need to consider right in that planning phase. And again, you might not start with guests on your show, but you want to plan again with the end in mind. What do I foresee, or what do I plan to have rolled out over the next 6 months? Perhaps you might do your original shows, you might do your first season, which we call as the first 12 weeks. You might do that all by yourself, and then as you gain confidence and you're comfortable with it all, then you can move into having some guests on your show. So these are some of the things that you want to consider. And then the last thing I would say in that planning phase is, and it goes back to that commitment piece, is book in a date. Make a commitment to yourself and in your diary that you are going to go live with your very first show on a specific date, and make it happen. Do not move it. Make sure that it is the day that you go live, because that's going to set the scene, and it will set the commitment for you, and you'll continue to be able to run with that rhythm and routine. The first few months of your show, really important, because it is about setting foundations. It's about getting that rhythm and that routine right. And as I said, you're going to get better and better and better at it. Now, if you're someone that's sitting back now and saying, well, Trace, even though you've given me all of these tips and you're going to give me a planner, I'm still not 100% sure that I'm going to be able to do this. And maybe I need a little bit of, I need a few friends surrounding me to help me with my confidence, and to help me get my show up and running, to help me with, what tech should I use, and how do I use the camera, and how do I find the confidence within me, and how do I structure my show, and blah, 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 or the list goes on. So what I've talked about today is just like that planning phase. There's a lot more to it, of course. How do I come up with my show ideas? How do I set up the technical components? Blah, 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 all of that stuff. If you're somebody sitting here right now and thinking, I need a little bit of a hand with that, well, I've got some great news for you, because not only am I going to give you the show planner today, but I'm also going to give you a link in the comments section that will take you to a page and you can check it out. But the program that I've been speaking about, called Influence and Authority Method, is now open for new registrations. So you could go to influenceandauthority.com and you can get yourself either on the waiting list for one of our upcoming intakes, or you could join the program and get yourself started. Great thing about that is you've got people who have been there, who have walked this path before you. We know all the things that you need to troubleshoot, the challenges that you are going to face, the emotional roller coaster that you're probably going to go through. We're going to give you all the heads up on all of that, and you're going to be well supported by a very supportive network and community who shows up to help one another out on their shows. So if that's something that you want to consider doing, head on over to influenceandauthority.com, and we would be absolutely delighted to have you inside of our program and to help you get your show up and running and connected with the right messaging to the product and or service that you have already got or that you are thinking about creating. So I want to say thanks very much, everyone, for joining me on today's show. It's been a fun week. So in the world of Tracy Wilson and Metadime Digital and the stuff that we've been doing with our team, it's been a big week. We've been planning a lot of new things in the background with some new products and services that we're going to be coming out with. So stay tuned for those. I'll share them, further down the track when it's appropriate, when we've got them ready to go in later podcasts. But it's been a fun week for us and some real, I suppose, let's call it team development moments that we've had in this last week. So pretty excited about what's coming up next. And I'm going to head away for the weekend. The last just on a personal note, if I showed you again, last week I had in my kitchen, cooking was going on and we were doing a big get together for about 20 of our family members. Today I have my son and his girlfriend's brand new puppy. So, I've gone from looking after grandchildren. What do you call them? Grand puppies, grand doggies, anyway, puppy. I have in my kitchen right now, and having to run around after it for the next few hours before they get home from work. So that being said, guys, I hope that you guys are having a fantastic week. I'm going to be back again with another episode of Unlocked with yours truly, Tracy Wilson, next Wednesday and Friday's the time that I go live, 10 a.m. Brisbane time. And if you want a copy, let me just get you a copy of. Let me grab it. One moment, please. I'm going to grab you guys the link that you can go to get yourself a copy of the show planner. Let me pop it in one of these banners down here so that you can see it on the screen. All right, let's do this. So let's add that. Let's pop it on the screen. So if you just head on over to tracymwilson.com/show planner, then you'll be able to get yourself a copy of that show planner that I've spoken about today. You can print it out and you can just work your way through the process of creating your own live show. And I would love to hear, regardless of whether or not you join our program, you decide that you need a little bit of help with it, even if you don't and you go it alone, message me and say, hey, Trace, I've got a show up and running. Come and check it out. So message me on my Facebook page or go to my website and leave me a little voice message and say that you've got your show up and running. And you just never know. I might even invite you to be a guest on my show at some point. Anyhow, guys, have a fantastic weekend. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.